Welcome to Radio Free Will, a podcast for sovereign people. I'm your host, George McCullough, and we're coming at you from Griggstown, New Jersey. This is our first show of 2020, a brand new year. We're going on our third year of Radio Free Will. And once again, my esteemed guest is Michelle Mockers, artist, activist, and philosopher. When we ended our last show of 2019, we wished everyone a peaceful new year, but it looks like we're starting off 2020 with looks like America is gearing up for war again. It committed an act of war against Iran, and the neocons in Washington have really been aiming to go after Iran. I think they want that oil, and it's a sad situation. Michelle, do you got any
idea about that, my dear? My whole life about it, if you want. More than my whole life, because when you say that America is still again watching more or less for war, my dear, we do the same thing since the beginning, since thousands of years. War. History has not been, written since a long, long period of time. Before we were not writing, we had no way to write. The beginning is people like Sommer and things like that, but it's no more than basically between 5 and 6,000 years. So we know with some exactitude what did happen for, let's say, the 5,000 years back. And 5,000 years back, when you look at the 5,000 years back, there is no one damn year without a war somewhere. Like if humanity had nothing else to do than to fight each other, instead of going together to organize the earth, no, we fight to have a piece of it according to what we think it should be.
And you know Einstein's famous quote about the definition of insanity.
Yeah.
But just keep doing the same stuff over and over and expecting different results. So, yeah, I agree with you. And especially America seems to be in a war every year. Right now, currently, there's 7 or 8 wars going on that the United States has their hands in. And
yeah, you don't talk too much about those wars, but they are going on. They are absolutely going on. Maybe if you don't have them in your pocketbook, every day as a news, they are going on. They are part of what has always been so far the way of acting of humanity. And let me tell you, if that doesn't change right now, with the number of people on Earth and the way our Earth is organized, if it doesn't stop, it's the end of it. It's really the end of, I should say, humanity or civilization as we know it. It's going to turn to be a disaster,
Yeah, I had a thought the other day, and I'm going, the world is really, there's massive protests against climate change and all that kind of stuff, but what good is trying to stop climate change if you're still there's war going on constantly throughout the planet? I think that should be our first concern.
Maybe I am, I don't know, flying in the clouds, but when you look at the reality is that you always have people, look at one thing which is very characteristic. China, which is based on communism, and communism is the dictatorship, if I understand very well Mr. Karl Marx, is the dictatorship of the proletariat. And what is today the dictatorship of the proletariat? One man elected for life to direct the country. That is exactly, they go back because it doesn't stand. It doesn't stand to say that the people are going to like that. It's just a word in the wind. And it ends up that the proletariat, the dictatorship of proletariat, ends up in the hands of one man elected for life. like a king of the Middle Ages. In other words, they have made absolutely no intellectual progress, not at all. Technical, even technical. You know, when the Marxists said the man has no conscience. What governs man is the way he is living. So man has no conscience. Cannot discuss about whatever or whatever. No, you have to go according to what you eat, what you sleep, whatever it is. That is Marxism.
But if there was a country that had a dictatorship, would that be an excuse to go into war against them?
No, absolutely not, because it's always the same thing. Okay, I was talking, but it just comes in my mind to say, you see how it can, go from one, in fact, wish, that the proletariat is going to be the master of the country. No, the proletariat, the people with no, what I call the no pennies, have absolutely no power at all. It's end up stupidly, like usual, like 500 years ago or 1,000 years ago, putting the power in one man who direct the country. It's always the same thing. And it's the same thing in America. America, for another problem, is completely different. You can eventually say what you want, which you cannot do maybe in China. You are supposed to be able to have the freedom of speech and opinion. That is still to be demonstrated, but that's something else. But we are still in a country where supposedly the people have some power, they vote. But what is the result? It's always one man, as stupid that can be Mr. Trump, illiterate. He's an illiterate man, but he has a big mouth and a big I don't know what. So he has enough people who made in such a way that he is a president. He's a president with absolutely, for me, no intellectual power.
Well, in America, it seems like we have a shadow dictatorship. You got unseen people that control a lot of the political power in the United States.
Why, my dear? Why? Because America doesn't stand. Yeah, but why? Because philosophically speaking, America doesn't stand. America is made of a contradiction, which should not be. The society, I always repeat myself, but the society which has laws, you walk on the sidewalk, you cannot do this, you cannot do that, you cannot steal. You have to be, the definition is interdependent. The citizen inside of the township has to be interdependent. If you look in the dictionary, it will tell you that it is society is interdependence of people. You have that. And that is half of America, the living people, the everyday living people. And you have the other side of America, which is the free enterprise, which is the war of labor, the war of money, the war of everything. So you have that contradiction here between you are under the law and here you have no law. You can kill the competition. It's very good to kill the competition because you will have the job more. You don't care if you put the people on the sidewalk, the worker on the sidewalk, that doesn't matter. You will have more to do because you will have to do what you put down on the other one. So in other words, in one side, you have absolutely no right to kill. On the other side, you have right to kill. Perfect contradiction. And it's why America doesn't stand. And is absolutely, when you look at in fact, at how America, the Constitution does not at all address the economic side of the country. I always quote those two words. The only quote of the Constitution about the people is 3 words: the welfare of the people. That's it. But the welfare, they don't say how to make the welfare. They absolutely don't say it.
There is a lot about African Americans in the Constitution because they were considered property.
That's something. That again something else. So. We don't like a stranger like that. We put the Indians. We put the Indians out. What were they doing here? Come on, that was our country. So what those guys were invaders. So we absolutely destroyed practically destroyed the Indians.
Yeah.
Absolutely, and it was absolutely logical, my dear, because you were the master of the country like that. The people with the money.
We have an election coming up in 2020 for President of the United States. How do you see things going?
Well, we are one or two people who are a little more pretend that they are socialist. Socialism pretend to bring some socialism in, but what is socialist? Socialist doesn't even define itself. You don't know if you go to socialism in the website, their website, they don't know, they don't explain to you what they want to do with the power. The communists do, but not the socialists. The socialists are nice dreamers who would like to have a better society, and everybody will be happy in their society, but they don't say how to do it. And when they propose to look like to be avant-garde, they propose some measure to adjust a little more to reality. That goes absolutely nowhere, my dear, nowhere. And in America, you have something wonderful. You have only two countries who monopolize the stage for the election. They are the two countries with the money because it's a country where you can pay for, which is absolutely anti-democratic, to be able to pay, to give $100,000 or it's a small sum I'm talking. Some give more than that, excuse me. But so you are able to do that, to buy the people that you want to be elected. You call that democracy? It's absolutely not democratic.
It's legal bribery.
It's always the same thing. It's the same thing. That contradiction that exists in America makes that the people with the money finally own the country. They are the smartest in the war. In the war to win the country. And you have only few people, let's say basically 10%, we always say the 1%, but it's 10% who own practically half of the country, practically the assets of all the country. The 40% of the population, the no pennies, they own 0.2% of the assets of the country. So, and you call that democracy? You are obliged to pay to become a citizen? You call that democracy? Come on, that's absolutely not democracy.
And so how do you see things changing? Or is it just a natural process that there will always be the 1%?
We are still. The election will change absolutely nothing to that state of affairs.
I hope so.
No, they will change absolutely nothing. The 1% will always be the 1%. Excuse me, that will change nothing.
You couldn't vote you couldn't pass laws to take their money away? Because you're either going to take their money away and create some kind of justice through the legal process or through
How do you do that?
Or through violence.
My dear, it's why I didn't make it at all in purpose, because I wanted to be a musician, I became a painter. But becoming a painter, I asked some question about painting itself. And how do you make a painting, and the philosophy of painting? How do you go from something totally abstract, which is your idea of what you want to put on the canvas, and on the other side you have the canvas with all the material to realize what you have in mind. So it's a complete, if you want, a complete achievement between something abstract and something very figurative. So from that, I slowly, painting, it took me years and years to achieve what I wanted to paint, because I went through the whole history. It obliged me to go to the whole history of painting, And from the history of painting, a little more than history of painting, history of the arts, since the caveman who is the first one to express by art something, that very famous hand on the wall of the, and the animals that they were training. So art has always been part of humanity. And when you look at all the civilization that took place one after the other, one disappearing and one disappearing, we know them because they left behind them a temple, paintings, statues, and things like that. So we can see the evolution of man through the centuries, through 50,000 years. We can follow that. So I just say myself, how is it that always, since the very first man up to today, the act of painting is always the same. always. It has not changed. And it has not changed. It's why you can watch today what they did, because it is done exactly the same way, which is according to what you can see. So I came out to define what is the philosophy of the arts, how precisely you put together something abstract and something very, very positive, the paint. And you can do exactly the same thing with society. Make a nice painting of society with the abstraction of society and the tough things of society. But, any piece of art has limits. Any piece of art, even Mr. Picasso, if you want, is despite what he pretends, is basically using the arts to express what he wants, even if you use it in such a way that it's, of course, it can be funny. But so if you want, the realization of art is a realization, is the balanced realization. It's a balance precisely between the abstraction of what you want to say and the way you say it. But you are obliged to remain in limits. You can go over this way and over that way. You have
So it's okay for society to put limits on.
Exactly, like
how
a painting. Society is a nice painting. Let's imagine that we put society in a frame. It's a nice painting inside of a frame. And in a painting, you can mix or not mix or whatever it is. There are rules to do that, but that's something else. That's something else. But I mean, you make your painting inside of a frame. You don't paint on the wall up the frame or the wall under the frame. And it is what we are doing with the 1% who paint off the frame and those people who do not have enough to eat under the frame. So the society that comes out of based, if you want, on the philosophy of the arts is a society, balanced society with not too much and enough. That's it. But that is not at all what do the America today. When you are going to vote, you vote for exactly the same thing, the 1%. You vote for that, you vote for nothing else. Even if you give a little more money for education or this or that, that, my dear, doesn't change, if you want, doesn't change the philosophy of that we have today of what is in America society.
So you're proposing some kind of balance between communism, socialism, and capitalism?
No, something different, because none of those answer the if you want, the philosophy of the art. The philosophy of the arts would be the very first time that it will be proposed to replace communism, socialism, and capitalism as we know it. We cannot accept communism as it is. We cannot accept socialism is existing, but we cannot accept it, and we cannot.
Well, we could accept it, but
well, they are nice people, but we cannot accept capitalism also, as we do capitalism, because capitalism is exactly what it means. It's the reign of the capital, my dear. The capital is the money.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, do you think human beings focus way too much attention on economics?
Well, no. You go a little aside of the problem.
I'm just teasing you a little bit.
Yeah, you can tease me, because when you have to pay to become a citizen, means that a lot of kids could have a little more instruction than they have, know what they are doing when they vote. And today they don't know what they are doing when they vote. They vote because Mr. So-and-so says something that pleased them, or they believe that he will do this or that. There is nothing serious. If you interrogate people who are going to vote, there is absolutely nothing serious. And don't forget that only half the people vote. Half the people don't vote because they say one very, very simple thing: we vote, it will change nothing. Change what? They don't say to change what, but I had that answer a lot of time. Oh, I don't vote because it will change nothing. They know that it will change nothing.
Do you vote?
Yeah, so far I have voted. I don't vote anymore.
Okay.
I don't vote
Not
anymore
even
because I
local
don't want.
elections?
No, I don't want anymore. I am against the system. I cannot vote for the system.
Well, when I said that, when I posed the question, are human beings too focused on economics? If they focused enough on the arts and culture as much as they do economics, what kind of world would that be?
No, no, no. That is in the mind. That in practice, they are more interested in arts than in literature. All what you have on you has been made by artists. Your dress, whatever it is, your automobile, anything you do are arts. You eat, you try to make a nice thing, artistic meat. Everything you do, art is in your life from when you get up in the morning up to night. And you get up on a bed that has been drawn by an artist,
And who makes the money?
not the artist.
Not the artist.
No.
Is-
The one who manufactured the work of the artist.
Yeah, is there an art to working on Wall Street and financial deals and stuff like that?
Oh, there is an intellectual, if you want to calculate that if at 6 in the morning you buy 10,000, values of the British, whatever it is, and you will sell them at 11 o'clock before you go for lunch, and you will make 1 cent on one of them, so you multiply 1 cent by 10,000, so your day has been made. So that's an art, if you want. That's an art. But there is also an art of doing bad things.
Yeah, I agree with you.
There is an art of doing bad things, but there is an art of doing bad things because you give too many occasions to people to make bad things.
And there is bad art too.
Yeah, because but if people were more, if the whole thing were more educated, could have, I say education should be of 3 things: the books, because you have to learn what was before, you have to learn your own language, you have to learn a foreign language, whatever it is, you have to learn mathematics, you have to learn whatever it
Read
is.
and write.
The books, number 1. Number 2, the arts. Every kid should be exposed to whatever, a symphonic orchestra or whatever band, for music, local music, whatever it is. And third, every kid should have the possibility to really practice a sport, including horse riding, including sailing, including things like that. The kid should have 3 things in his life, 3 things at equal value in his life. They don't. They are very, 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 very far from that. Come on. You have in America, you have kids who do not have a pencil.
Especially
cannot.
in the inner cities.
Of course. So that's where, when people say it will change nothing to vote, it will change absolutely nothing to vote. It will change nothing. You will have Mr. So-and-so instead of Mr. So-and-so. After they did quarrel, when you look at what they do, they spend their time quarreling. Trying to reach each other,
You're encouraging people not to vote.
Well, no, I am encouraging people to look at what I am proposing. The dialectic of the arts, and if enough people were agree with the dialectic of the arts as a political dialectic, if you want, then we will take over. I don't know, I cannot tell you today how, but it has to take over. It's also part of the history of humanity that you can take over. And it would be more interesting to take over with something, let's say, more peaceful and more inclined to the arts and to all that, than to say tomorrow morning we are going to make war and so and so because this or that. There is no reason. When you look, for example, Indochina, Vietnam, Indochina. Why did the French go over there? I told you that, I believe, already. Why did they went for the rubber? So after that, it went for the rubber. It was not for.
They stayed for the opium.
Come on, it's always the same. It's always the same story. The people with money, we conquer Africa. Africa was Belgium, was German, was English, was French, and Spanish.
And then America.
Except Africa. No, American, of course, they came here. But except African people. except African people. They were all subject of other country. You know, the whole center of Africa was French, and on the Mediterranean was French. Why? Because we conquered them. In the name of what?
Which brings me back to how we opened the show about it seems the United States is gearing up for another war. Now you're totally against war.
Absolutely
and
against
you've had
war.
your own personal experiences in war.
My dear, yeah, you know, and what is terrible is that the people that you send, that the government sent to war, are only basically young people, And as a young people, I told you that already. I give you a lot of details. I have been taken by, you know, the turmoil of the German invading France, and I didn't want to go to Germany to work for the Germans, so I had to escape. And at the end, I was able to organize fighting against the Germans. But you know, it's terrible when you are 18 years old, 20 years old. You know, it's terrible to be obliged to do things like that, to kill. You know very well, I killed. How can you imagine that coming out of college, you know, I was of a nice family, you know, nice college. I have been admitted to 4 years to make studies on a monastery of Benedictine, which was very top, you know, study. 5 students for 5 teachers. So I was speaking Latin and Greek when coming out of that. So how can you imagine that the next morning you're obliged to kill? Because somebody, somewhere, will have you, you must kill.
And why did Germany invade France? What were they seeking to gain?
France was a little special because, you know, Paris was Paris, and Paris had a very
So
big...
it's like a crown jewel is what they
Yeah,
were.
it had a very good advantage of France, Paris, because in Paris, all the officers would have 2 days or 3 days of freedom. They were all coming. The nightclub never worked like during the German occupation because they sold champagne. And when it was the American occupation, after not occupation, but American there, it was finished. The American didn't drink champagne.
But
They
I
didn't-
You said that France invaded Indochina for the rubber.
Yeah.
Was there any resources or anything like that in France that Germany wanted? Or this was
No.
just...
Hitler had a big, you know, big plan to become European, to take over Europe, in fact, and to be the master of the world, in fact. That's what he wanted. He was a little cuckoo, don't forget that. But you know what is absolutely wonderful is that guy, if you really follow exactly what he said, what he wrote, and what that was completely crazy, but he was followed, like Mr. Trump has been followed to be elected. Mr. Hitler has been elected. You know, he was finally elected. And guys like that, they are elected. Why are they elected? Explain to me why they are elected. Our people with no, in fact, Hitler had no. He was a painter at the time, but he forget that. It didn't work. He forget it. But he had no, let's say, no education, no philosophy, no nothing at all. It was just the strength, and he had that objective against the Jewish people. So that gives force to his party. But you know, you see exactly the same thing. That man in China. Why that one man in China who is elected for life? My dear, is elected for life. You cannot change it for life. So how can you imagine that? How can you imagine that? Once more, even in our country, we are at the point where we are with all those let's say basic difference in the population. It's not the whole population. It's a population who is owning the country and a population who owns nothing. So how can you elect a guy who will represent all that? How can you do that?
But the only reason why they have that power is because people let them have that power. In China, you say the dictator for life, but that can be taken away anytime. their public can just stand up and say, no, we don't want it anymore.
Yeah, but they don't do it. They don't do it because that is again the same problem. They don't have anything else to propose. So
Or they're kept happy enough not to.
not to propose, or they are afraid of proposing. They are
Just-
afraid.
Just like in America,
They are afraid of proposing. That's something else. It
What
would
do you
change. It would change too many things for too many people. If the
people
society,
get afraid of change. Sometimes they got to be forced to change.
yeah, because they are afraid of what will. They are afraid of change because nothing very positive has been ever proposed for the change. Nothing ever proposed. For example, the president yesterday, another president in this country propose anything, for example, for the education of kids. This is a country.
Well, they're proposing it, but they're proposing to get rid of all public schools. That's what they're proposing. They want to turn that into education into an industry, and yeah, it already is, but a private industry where people can milk a lot of profits off of.
Well, yeah, but it's always the same thing, you know. But it's always the same politics which is applied, you know. You cannot say tomorrow morning we change that completely for what? If you don't have the power, you have to have the power. So it's why, in fact, I come back to myself. I should not come back to myself, but I come back to myself because I propose the arts positive dialectic, and the arts is something that everybody can understand, and the arts are proposing something, let's say, basically reasonable, not too much and enough. Society like that, not 1% owning the country and not people with enough to eat at night.
Well, I know you have a magical personality, but it sounds like what you're saying is that the dialectic of the arts needs a strong leader.
Yes, my dear.
Right?
Yeah, no. Yeah, okay, but you know my age. Come on. Even if I leave a firm, you know, I can go up to 120. Huh? But they will say he's gaga at 120. you know. Not only that, I don't do that for me. And it's precisely the dialectic of the arts. The dialectic of the arts is for absolutely everybody. Now, everybody cannot go there, and you have, of course, to have a group of people. But with that philosophy, there is not applying that philosophy, not applying using the outside philosophy to apply their own philosophy. Anyone who will come to be the president, if you want, of that, will have to be president of the dialectic of the arts, not of himself, to apply the dialectic of the arts. And the government, the dialectic of the arts, propose all what the government has to do. And the government has to do that.
And what's a citizen's responsibility in the dialectic of the arts?
To go for the dialectic of the arts, my dear. To go for that. Come on.
No, but what is
You have
if
to
the dialectic of the arts became
personal.
the philosophy
Yeah.
that rules the planet, what is a citizen's role in that?
The citizen on that, first take the citizen like that, because he's going to be the citizen like that. The citizen, when he is 9 years old or 10 years old, must have all the citizens must have the same possibility of education. And I tell you what is education. It's not to be on a book, it's to have three things completely different, but at enough time, let's say 3 times if you want. The classic, the arts, music, whatever it is, and to really practice things that today very few people can practice. For example, I don't know, horse riding. Who is practicing horse riding today? Very, very few people who have the money to be horse riding. So every young man must have the possibility eventually to choose. You have some, we will be very good with a cell and will not very good with a horse. So you have to have the possibility to go from one to another. But every young man must have the possibility to do an art, because that develops not only the physical but the intellectual. So it's a complete development. If you have here exposition to the arts, whatever it is, the arts, reproduction of this, that.
Do they have to serve in the military?
No. No, I don't consider a military. Come on. No, there is
Because there
no
won't be
military.
a military, right?
No, there is no military. Come on, no military.
But
Oh,
some
eh,
kind of service for the public.
oh, that's something else that will have to be discussed by the people. But you know something, my dear. The military, when you look at the budget in the U.S., the military have more budget than the people. 54, 55% of the budget goes to the military.
Yeah, so I always found it to be funny that they're always claiming that Donald Trump is a madman, he's crazy, but they keep giving him more and more money for the military.
That's absolutely
Just
insane,
goes to
my
show
dear.
you how
Absolutely.
hypocritical
We will
they
not
are.
be invaded by the Chinese tomorrow morning. Forget it. They cannot do that. No, absolutely not. So it's quarrel. I always call the big war, which was supposed to be the end of all wars, World War One. It was supposed to be the last war. That was the word of that time, the last of all the wars, because it was such an ugly war that it was impossible to have another war after that. And it was 11 million people, not people, male dead, because they were not, at that time, they were not attacking the civilian population, basically. It was 11 million men. There were no men at the end of World War One. There was no enough men for the women. They were killed. And they were killed for what? For a quarrel between the same family who was at the head of the three most powerful countries in the world. They were quarreling. Quarreling family of 2 or 3 people, 11 million people. A crazy idea of Mr. Hitler, 50 million people, 50 million dead. He has 50 million people behind him.
5-0.
50 behind him. 50 million people. That he organized the world in such a way that he killed his army, whatever, 50 million people. Can you imagine that? So what is the next war? With atomic bombs or whatever it is, and a real war, except if it's a small war, against, I don't know, Syria or whatever, which will be a relatively small war, if it doesn't push the other one to go in, because we have a treaty with this, we will defend that, we will, blah, 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 blah. We had a treaty with Poland in 1939. Poland. So when Poland was attacked, the French declared war to Germany. And the Germans attacked Poland, they took Poland, they said they killed Bausa. That was absolutely untrue, but they went into Poland. So we went, England and France had a contract with Poland that if Poland was attacked, we will go to war. We went to war, 50 million people. For what? For the crazy mind of Mr. Hitler.
But you kept your word.
That what is absolutely fantastic is that precisely up to today, and it's where the arts dialectic is a very, very powerful philosophy. It's the first time, if you want, that philosophy is used, real philosophy is used, a philosophy that exists since the caveman, philosophy that he demonstrated. That the first time that such a philosophy will be applied to the population, to the people.
Well, we're getting close to the end of the program, and you just finished your book of political cartoons.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. It was a few years of political cartoons that I put together and that we're going to publish, my dear.
Yeah, so we're going to go through some of them starting next week.
Yeah, if you want. Yes.
I have to scan them in. But I have to, for our next program, you and I will have to see whether we can do it on Saturday. I'm planning on it, but we're having some sewer issues, so it might be the time when I can get somebody to come out and take a look at it. So all the crap is backed up. We got to let it go in 2020.
Yeah, that little, it's I believe it's 48, no, 8, yeah. I don't remember, 88 images, but they basically tell in images what I'm telling in the microphone. You will see that they follow the same idea and the dialectic of the art. Some of them are very explicative of what is going on.
But we can't show them on TV. People will just have to watch next week because they might be intriguing images, right?
Okay.
Michel.
One thing, dear, if I can say, one thing is that so far I don't know anything like that is published in the US. You know, in the US, the liberty of freedom and the opinion is that everybody follows the same. All the radio stations, the TV station, all that, they all support the government and nothing else. You have nothing against the government.
So we're going to be the first to debut this book, but you also have another book because we're entering another period of war. You've written René's War.
Yeah, but
right? It's your experiences in World War II. It's a different cover though, and I put the new cover on.
You know, so one of my friends who was he's dead now, but he was the representative of the French people on the whole East Coast, and he was a senator in France. And he told me one day, it was 10 years ago or 15 years ago, he told me, if you don't write it, it will be lost forever. I never did write anything about the war, and I didn't think of the war for 50 years. And all of a sudden, he brought me in, and in fact, I am relatively pleased to have done it because I can talk to some people when they want to. You know, I talk to a Rotary Club or whatever it is, to tell the story of the war. To make and beside that, to make the American know that the French people, even if we were beaten by the German, we were not from the army, we try our best to help the Allies to progress.
And people could get a copy of this book if they want to read your memoir.
Yes, it's in, actually it's not me who put it on, but it's on Amazon.
Amazon.com.
Yeah.
And if people go to your website, they can get
They
copies
can get
of
the dialectic of the arts.
dialect. And what's the website?
The website is no-pennies.com.
And if people have questions for you, how can they reach you?
They can reach me at Michel Mockers, one word, michelmockers@gmail.com.
Okay, folks, there we have another good episode, Michel. I appreciate the time we get to spend together.
You know, I prepare absolutely nothing. I just talk to you as it comes through my mind.
It's a big mind. We got a lot to explore, folks.
Now it's the 97 years of existence. So there is always eventually too much.
I want to thank everybody for listening to us this week, and join us again for our next episode, and have a peaceful 2020.